Hi everyone, and welcome to Founder Wednesdays, a regular stream where we talk to fashion entrepreneurs and founders of direct-to-consumer brands about building stronger, more sustainable, and profitable businesses. Today we are talking to Kasper Petersen, a co-founder of LABFRESH, a fashion brand that offers male apparel that is odor and stain repellent. In this conversation, we talk about how to run a successful crowdfunding campaign and do it 4 times to fuel your business and learn about your customers. We also talk about Omni-Channel Strategy and how it's going to play a bigger role in a playbook for any new direct-to-consumer brand. And then finally, how to build a brand that is authentic and that is community-driven. So if you're interested in it, please tune in, and I hope you enjoy it.
This is a very exciting format. I haven't tried it before.
Yeah, and sorry, it took a moment this time. I don't know, we had a little bit of a technical issue in the beginning, but I'm glad that you're with us now and we can kick it off.
Well, it looks very professional with that bright background and a big microphone and everything.
Yeah, you gotta find some setup, especially in Copenhagen when it gets dark really early these days.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah, in my quarter in this apartment, there's very little light, so I have to come up with all of those LED lights and everything else to make it look a little bit better.
All right, very nice.
Well, Kasper, thank you so much for joining us. This is our regular Wednesday stream. We call it Founders Wednesday, and the goal of this stream is to get some exciting founders of direct-to-consumer fashion brands to get in and join us and talk about their businesses, how they're building it, share tips, share practical advice, and kind of learn from it and learn from each other. So I'm really excited that you are here with us today. And we, of course, will talk about you and your journey as an entrepreneur, and of course, about the fashion brand that you're building today, which is LABFRESH.
Okay, very cool. Thanks.
Yeah, so perhaps we can kick it off a little bit with a brief introduction to you and how you actually started LABFRESH. And a little bit of a disclaimer here, a lot of founders that we talk to, usually they come from the outside of the industry, but I know that before LABFRESH, you already had another startup, another company in the fashion industry. So tell us a little bit about how it all started and how you transitioned from one startup in the fashion industry to starting your own brand.
Yeah, well, I'm definitely not a real fashion guy. I think I just ended up having 2 startups within this field because it's this crazy, irrational industry where both buyers and all these legacy players are acting a lot on gut and are ignoring a lot of new technologies and new, what can you say, developments in the society and online. So to me, that's just like, I can't get my hands off it. There's so many things you can do within that space. And for this company, LABFRESH, it started in 2016. I'm originally from Copenhagen. I was at that time living in Berlin, but I'm living in Amsterdam now, and also did that before. And Amsterdam is sort of my new adopted hometown. And we were sitting in Berlin because our German competitors had acquired my first startup, and I didn't have a lot to do. And when I don't have a lot to do, I start tinkering. I start dreaming of new ideas that can be very fun to build. And it doesn't really matter if it makes business sense or if I can raise venture capital or something like that. And in this case, I was just really excited about making a physical product, something I can hold in my hands instead of software or a platform. And we started ordering all these Kickstarter products with great new innovations. All the products were great in the video on Kickstarter and pretty shitty when you actually had them. So the idea was basically to take all these amazing new technologies and then use my skills in building supply chains to set up production with the best mills in all of Europe so that it became really, really nice clothing with nice technology instead of shitty, nerdy clothing with good technology.
Yeah, well, it's also interesting with LABFRESH as a business itself, because I know that you have this very interesting story behind the product and the idea of the brand, like how you actually ended up creating and starting first with shirts and shirts that are practical and sustainable and look good. So tell us a little bit about how did it all happen? Where did this passion come from for this product?
Are you talking about my good old days in a suit and tie?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, well, the industry I was in before fashion is the least fashionable industry in the entire world, I think. It's shipping. I work for the biggest company in Denmark called Maersk. And I was wearing a suit and a tie every day. And the last year I was there, I had around 200 travel days. And all of it was in Nigeria, Oman, India, China, basically every place in the world that has a really high humidity and where it's really warm. And to me, coming from being a student to suddenly wearing a suit in the desert, it was the most stupid thing I had ever experienced. There was no reason why you should do this. And it's just impossible to not have sweat stains and to look decent after 10 hours in an environment like that. So yeah, already from back then, I just thought it was, quite ridiculous to wear clothing like this at this time.
Yeah, of course. LABFRESH, like one of the things that I really like about the brand is that it does combine the sort of like the innovation, especially with regards to fabrics. So maybe you can tell us a little bit about the what's unique about those fabrics and the way you guys manufacture it. And after that, I would love to dive a little bit deeper into the manufacturing process. Like, how did you kick it off? How did it all start?
Yeah, so I would never want to spend some of the best entrepreneurial years of my life on a mediocre product that everyone could copy pretty fast. I wanted to have something unique. And that's why as soon as we saw nice products, I started chatting up textile engineers and scientists and so on via LinkedIn and some academic networks. And I realized that there's quite a few really great innovators who holds patents and created really nice technical treatments and technical fabrics. And no one is using it because these guys like being in a lab. They like being in the university more than they like going down to huge factories in Bangladesh and set up production. So basically, the innovation was to get these great inventions out of the lab and into factories and then into everyone's home.
Mm-hmm. How did you find those patents? Is it some kind of website that you go into? Did you do some research somewhere else?
Yeah, I looked at the peer-reviewed articles that you have in all the databases. You know, when I started at Copenhagen Business School, I would still have some logins to all these academic databases. And you can just search on antimicrobial properties or, in our case, dirt and water repellency and so on. And then you can see like who actually spent a lot of time looking at this. Mm-hmm. Then I sent them a private message. And in one case, I would invite my current co-founder and fiance on a romantic trip to Paris, and then we would go to dinner with some of these guys and ask them about how to put chemicals on fabrics basically, and all of them love talking about it. So that's, they can never hurt to actually ask people.
Yeah, absolutely. So how did it go from finding those people with patents and who have developed that unique technology to manufacturing the first sort of designs and the first products?
I think we put an unnecessary amount of pressure on ourselves. I'm not happy we did it, but we put the pressure on by doing crowdfunding when we made one prototype. Like we literally had one shirt that was stain repellent, anti-odor, wrinkle-free, stretchy, and all this stuff. We made it with a French partner, and we loved it. Then we put it on Kickstarter, and we were lucky that we were just shooting a video in our own apartment, and then we sold for 200,000 euros. And then we had to start making them in bulk production. And that became crazy expensive. I had this idea that when we make 2,000 shirts instead of one, then the price will go down a lot. But in the beginning, when you do everything on your own, it doesn't. Yeah. So it would cost, 45 euros per shirt in the beginning. And we would lose a bit of money on it. But then, then you're off the ground, at least.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So that first factory that you found, is it still the same factory that you work with today, or how does the manufacturing process change over the years?
From the beginning, we wanted to develop fabrics more like you guys are developing software. We wanted to all the time focus on the next generation. So we are on generation 3 of our fabric now, and we are 3 years old. Right when we were done with generation 1, we started working on generation 2, and we will also tell our partners price needs to go down and quality needs to go up, and it needs to go up and down, a lot for us to continue together. And I don't think any of these mills have ever heard that. In the first meeting where you say, yes, we nailed it, we're going to order this, and then you immediately say, but we will not place another order until it's better. That's not how normal fashion houses treat mills.
Yeah, yeah, of course. When we talk about manufacturing, especially with a lot of brands that are just starting now, there's always a little bit of an issue with, as you've mentioned, the cost, that it always is more expensive than you expect, but also with finding the right place to manufacture it at. So how did you go about finding that first factory that you will work with?
Yeah, I think it was really hard, and we actually wasted a lot of time in the beginning trying to go to factories and telling them we're going to do this Kickstarter project. So, just spend all this time developing stuff with us, and we will place an order later. I think most factories in Portugal, at least, they heard this story many times, and most of the time the Kickstarter project will fail, and you don't really get any orders in. So it only started working after we had the orders on Kickstarter, and we could go and say we're going to place a first order of 2,000 shirts.
Mm-hmm. And then after that, I guess it was, as you said, a continuous reiteration and discussion about the next order and the next generation.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. If you are to share any tips about the manufacturing process and like maybe mistakes that you wish you could have avoided in the early days, what would those be?
I think you often in the early stage have this idea that you need a lot of different choice, that your customers need a lot of different fits and styles and colors and fabrics and so on. And we also started piling on in the early phase until we started doing deep dive customer interviews. And we interviewed like 30 customers, and we realized that if we asked them what colors would you like, they would say a lot of colors. But if we asked them, what shirts do you have in your closet and so on, it turns out everything they're buying is white and blue. And, we showed them 10 different shirt designs and they don't care. So we went from having, cufflinks and normal cuffs and different types of color and whatever. We just said we have one normal shirt design for business shirt and we have one for casual shirt. And no one has ever complained about the little choice after that. Yeah. So it's like, keep it simple and order so that you can get orders in. And if you go to a factory and you're going to order 500 pieces in 20 styles, they're gonna lose patience with you.
Yeah, of course. When it comes to planning these days, how do you go about that? Is there any sort of special forecasting tool that you use, or how do you figure out how many orders to order and how many orders to place and so on?
We do it based on the minimum order quantities that we have for seasonal styles. Actually, we try to. This is a seasonal style. It's like a soft flannel cotton thing. It looks pretty much like winter, so then we call it seasonal. The seasonal products, maybe the minimum order quantity is 300 or 400 or 500 shirts. Then we find 5 colors we like. We order the minimum order quantities. When it's sold out, it's out. Which creates a culture among your customers that they have to be fast to get the popular styles. Mm-hmm. And then besides that, we have 10,000 plus never out of stock styles, and those we don't have to forecast because we tell the factories in advance we will order at least 30,000 of these shirts the next 12 months. They can have some fabric in stock, and it's flexible. We get orders every month from that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So for us, having the NOS program makes it much easier to plan, because even if all the seasonal styles are sold out, we still have our bread and butter.
Yeah, I think it's actually quite smart to separate those into different sort of like buckets, right? Like you have the seasonal stuff, and then you have the regular styles that people always be buying.
Yeah. And we noticed that if we have only red and yellow t-shirts, then we can't run any t-shirt ads. The conversion will be too bad. But if we have white and black t-shirts, it still works. So your data will show you what products that need to be NOS.
Yeah. For those who are joining us now, I also wanted to mention that at the end we will have time to take a couple of questions from the audience. So if you have questions, feel free to press the little icon with a question mark in the bottom and send your questions to us. You already mentioned that in your case with LABFRESH, you started with a pretty successful crowdfunding campaign. And I think at that time it was probably one of the most successful fashion crowdfunding campaigns on Kickstarter, if I'm not mistaken. So why crowdfunding? How did you start with that? I know that today a lot more brands are doing that, but back in the days, it was still quite unconventional.
Yeah, so number one is that we just think it's a lot of fun. Like you also have to create a business that you truly enjoy having. And with my first business, actually, we took in 3 million euros from venture capitalists quite early on. I was quite young, and then after 2 years, we had 50 people, and I couldn't keep control of what was happening. And this time around, I thought, let's not take any money from day one from investors. Let's ask people if they actually are interested in our product, and if they're not interested, we just don't do it. So that ultimate validation, where people don't just have to tell you that's a cool idea, they actually have to give you money. That yeah, besides being a lot of fun during that month, it's also just so great to have this feeling that there's a real demand for your product.
Yeah, so it's essentially doing the customer research and fundraising at the same time, in a way.
Yeah, it's customer research. It's the funding, so that you're not dependent on investors in the early stage, and then it's also it makes you connect more with your customers. We have launched 4 different product categories by now, all of them on Kickstarter for more than €1 million in pre-orders, and we are also opening a big flagship store now. And last week we asked our customers if they can borrow us money to open it. And then within a week, they transfer 250,000 euros to us so we can open this store. That makes us so happy in the evening when we have a glass of wine and we pop a champagne with the team. And like, these are the moments that makes it worth it, because so many people appreciate what you're doing.
Yeah, I mean, if that's not a good confidence and trust from customers, I don't know. Well, tell me about the most recent campaign, because it was, again, a pretty short period of time. You raised quite a lot of money from customers, and this time it was with the purpose of opening a pop-up or like flagship store, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. Like for all of our 5 crowdfunding campaigns, it actually starts with a data deep dive. So we send out a survey to our customers, and we do a bunch of phone interviews and fitting sessions and so on. And for products, no, you can figure out if we make the perfect pants or t-shirt or whatever it is, what do people care about? For this store, it turned out that 85% of our customers, they really wanted to try LABFRESH on in a physical store. That's a really clear number. I had I wouldn't know that it in advance that it would be so high, because I don't really shop in normal stores myself anymore. Yeah. But I love the idea of having one, where you turn it into like a brand symbol. And then I thought, how can we make this fun, fundraising wise? So we added a bunch of extra perks. So everyone who borrows more than 1,000 euros, they get a t-shirt where we print LABFRESH owes me. We then also have a big launch party for all the investors. In the end, there will be around 400 people who gave us money. And it's with some nice live music and free drinks, and where they can all connect, because they're all businessmen. And in average, a customer borrows us around 2,000 euros. So they have a certain commitment to it. And then the cherry in the cake, so to speak, is that our office will be on top of the store in an open part of a second floor, like a half floor in the back. Okay. So we can actually connect with the customers every day, and me and my co-founder will be there every day. Our designer can go downstairs and do fitting sessions with real customers. And when we have customers testing new prototypes, they can literally just go into the store and walk up to the first floor and say, hey, I'm here to pick up my prototype for testing. I mean, it's we think it's just going to be a lot of fun to have.
Yeah, and they can literally come upstairs, knock on your door, and say, hey, Kasper, I have an idea, or I want to give you feedback.
Yeah, like this radical transparency that Everlane was spearheading back in the day. We see ourselves as taking that to the next level, because we, of course, also do show videos from our factories and stuff like that, but we also show everything we're doing in our finances and new products we're making, whatever it is.
Do you think that radical transparency helps a brand like yours in the long run?
I think if you start a direct consumer brand nowadays, that's the only place to start. Like, first you build community, because that teaches you how to build a good product. then you get a great product, and then you start building a business. If you do it the other way around and first start to figure out how to do your Facebook ads and stuff, then constantly you will focus on the commercial part instead of just making people happy and making great products.
Yeah, and I guess that is aligned with the way you guys went about that as well, starting with the crowdfunding and getting the orders in, and then after that building up and getting every new category through the same path as well.
Yeah, and it's not the only way to do it. There's plenty of successful brands where you have no idea who the founders are, but I definitely think that if you can manage it as a founder, some will hate it. My co-founder, she was also very uncomfortable with it in the beginning. But if you're okay putting your face out there, people like buying from Gulnaz or Kasper more than they like buying from a website.
Yeah, of course. I would love to dig into that a little bit deeper, but just a few more questions on the crowdfunding part. One thing that I was curious about is obviously around all the creative part and the preparation of the campaigns for crowdfunding. Right now, it does seem that it can be quite demanding in terms of finances and time to get everything ready, all the documentation, the videos, photos, and so on. How was your experience first time when you started crowdfunding, and how has that changed with your last campaign?
Yeah, I think it's I actually think it's a lot harder now, but I haven't the last campaign we did not we already had a big community, so I can't really compare. But when we did the first campaign in 2017, we invested less than 500. We did that on purpose, from the simple reason that it has to be earned. Like if it's all based on paid marketing, we will forever have too high acquisition costs, and then we can't build a sustainable business. So we shot it in our apartment. We designed the page ourselves. We got some friends of ours to shoot the video, and they would get 2% of the funds raised if it was successful. And if it wasn't successful, they would get nothing. And that's it. I designed most of it in in PowerPoint, and when I look at it now, it's incredibly ugly. But honestly, 84% of our Kickstarter backers supported us because they wanted to support me and Lotte, not because they just needed this product in their life. And if it looks too professional, if you spend too much time on it or too much money on it, it won't work. Then people don't feel like helping you.
Yeah, and of course, I think many people like myself, including, we remember that video and photo that you have with you in white shirt with red wine. How did you come up with that idea?
That was when we spoke to these French guys who developed our first prototype, and she was saying you can put red wine on it. I'm like, excuse me, then if you can put red wine on a white shirt, that's so iconic. People will remember that more than our name, and you just need to put a red wine spill everywhere. And as soon as we did that, these videos went viral. It was on TV channels in Russia, Iran, India. Like Lad Bible picked it up, Vice magazine, Huffington Post. Like I've never seen anything like it in my entrepreneurial career. This spill was just everywhere.
Yeah, and you guys even went with the same product and the same sort of like narrative and idea to Dragon's Den as well, right?
Yeah, we actually did Dragon's Den both in Denmark and in the Netherlands.
Okay.
Also, to be honest, just because we thought it would be hilarious to do, we watched all, I think, 13 seasons of a Shark Tank in the US, and we love nerding these programs, and we always talk about how we would do it if we were actually in the program. So when it started up in Denmark, we're like, why not try? And when it started up in the Netherlands last year, we're like, let's do it one more time.
So how was the result of it? Because obviously it gives a lot of spotlight in the media, and I assume there was some consumer sort of interest as well. But now looking back, was it worth it? And what was the overall experience like?
In our case, you almost cannot underestimate it. We underestimated it before it happened, because when we were in the Danish show, we had like tripled our stock, because I had done some interviews with people who had been in there before, and they all said, this is going to go nuts. So we bought 3 times as much stock as we had before, and then it was all gone in 48 hours.
Oh, wow.
Then after that, we decided to keep selling it on the website and saying delivery will be in 4 to 6 weeks. And then it just kept selling, like full price, and you get it in 6 weeks. Who does that? And that's because it was, 2 people that you see instead of a commercial. And we, in the Netherlands, we actually ran normal TV commercials afterwards. So we could really measure the value of 10 minutes in Dragon's Den versus running, in October, we ran, 3,000 TV spots. And we got more results out of the 10 minutes in Dragon's Den than all these TV spots.
Yeah, I think there's very interesting story here with obviously your personal story and Lotte's story as well, and the community aspect of it. So I would love to learn a little bit, like how did it all started, and what are the key aspects in building a strong community and building a brand together with that?
Yes, that's a good question actually, because some part of me and of most people probably, when you hear community, you have this idea that people meet up and they sit next to each other, or they talk, the different customers talk to each other all the time or something like that. But it's more like doing a few bigger things together. It's very much based on asking your customers what they want, really listen to it, then you make it, and then you tell them, hey, thanks for filling out this survey number 200 that we just sent you. Here's a reward in the terms of a discount, 20 euros for your next product. And we listened to you and made this. We also shared the results of the surveys, if people voted for a certain color or new product. And then I think the core is to show them, your community, that you need their help and you appreciate it when they help you.
Yeah. So now you've been around for 3 years, and obviously you guys have a pretty significant presence on social media as well. How are you managing keeping that sort of like raw, personal touch when you have 30-something thousand followers on Instagram?
We should do more of this user-generated style content. We should do more live streamings and more behind the scenes from when we do a photo shoot or something like that. For us, it's more about doing one crowdfunding campaign a year at least, and then doing these phone calls and surveys that we do many times a year, and then select some customers that will do product testing of the prototypes. It can be 20 guys who will test pants for us, and they get them at cost price, and then they give us some feedback.
When it comes to the community building, obviously now a lot of direct-to-consumer brands are trying to figure that out because it's becoming such a big aspect. What are some of the common mistakes you see brands doing there?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
Yeah, I guess you got distracted also. I see that there are comments coming, and very nice ones.
Yeah.
Everyone who's tuning in. So my question was that right now with a lot of direct-to-consumer brands, the aspect of community cannot be overlooked. And obviously many brands are trying to create that strong community of users and customers and all of that. What are some of the common mistakes you see brands making when they go about community?
I think sometimes people will read a playbook or talk to other founders and try to do the business in a way that doesn't fit their personality. So some founders are very opinionated and they have a very clear style, right? There will be some female founder who knows everything about fashion, and she's not interested in the opinions of her customers because she will know better, which is often the case, right? Because your customers are not experts. And in that case, don't ask your customers for their inputs all the time if that's not what your type of business and your personality is all about. Then it can be, you can ask them to help you in other ways. But yeah, make it fit your personality. Just like you cannot build a culture that you say on paper is going to be a certain way, and you are not as a founder that way. You might be very serious or very introvert, and then you say, "Oh, we're gonna have fun and laugh all day." Then make something that fits you.
Yeah, that's a very good point. And of course, running a company, I could see that it resonates a lot with me as well, because you are in the very early days, you are the culture, you are the team, and then essentially everyone you hire and everyone who joins you, they pick up on that. And I think similar to that, it's reflected in building a brand as well.
Yeah.
We are actually getting a question here about whether you guys are considering launching LABFRESH for women.
Yeah, that might be the question we get the most often. And I would love to do it. We even have a lot of ideas on how to do it really well. But yeah, I believe in limiting yourself in your scope, not just because it's hard to make shirts or t-shirts or whatever that fits both men and women. It's not that, but in order to build a brand that really resonates with a certain kind of customer, it's just really hard for me to make it so that it fits women and men. They want very different things in their clothing.
Yeah. Is that in terms of the manufacturing part or positioning and branding?
No, I think manufacturing wise, there's just a lot of advantages in doing both. And I've seen many examples in my network that when a menswear focused brand starts doing women's wear, within a few years, they sell more women's wear than menswear, because women's wear is just a bigger market. And the way I would love to do it is to find a female entrepreneur who is really a core user of whatever products we're going to make herself. And she's burning to get this done. She's great in distribution, community building, content creation, and so on. And then she can use all that creative energy to make products. We will help set up the products. We can help with we can set up the web shop. We can run all the digital marketing and so on. But we will not be the ones building the community. That we would need another founder to go in and run that brand. And if it's called LABFRESH or not, I don't care. But we would love to help someone set that brand up.
Yeah, so kind of like lending your experience with building up the brand, but getting someone to take a lead on the community part. And
yeah, maybe one day, 10 years from now, there will be 5 or 10 brands that are using our type of technology. We're not interested in selling fabrics to people. We want to have contact to the end user, but it also doesn't have to be LABFRESH products that are made for kids and for hospitality and for women and for men. It can be different brands.
Well, it seems that we have someone in the chat who is volunteering to do that work. So yeah, perhaps check it out, and then maybe you can get in touch with Kasper and see if there is any room for collaboration.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about the omni-channel part and the flagship store. You already mentioned that now you have this big vision for how it will work out. What about the timing? Are you concerned about COVID? Are you concerned about the overall state of retail that we're seeing in the US as well as across Europe?
I'm concerned about the state of the economy in general, but not about retail. I actually think it's about time that we have a bigger reset, because you had this mismatch where you had landlords making really big profits in the last 10 or 20 years. And you had a lot of legacy retailers losing money and going bankrupt with all their stores. And we needed these terms for the stores to become better for us brands. That very much happened now. In the store we're opening, it's quite expensive stores. It's like 5 digits monthly rent, and it would have costed way more a year ago. We would never have been able to afford this stuff. So what I'm more scared about, and what I would not like for myself, is if we are continuing to be only focused on online, and then we keep paying 20% of our revenue to online marketing. We can keep doing that, but we are all fishing in the same pond, and I can see how all the legacy retailers are going into social media marketing now and dragging the prices up in a way that's just not sustainable.
Yeah. I remember some time ago, I read an article where it was sort of like a dive deeper into the direct-to-consumer economy and how it all works. And one thought that was really striking there is that in a way, the customer acquisition cost in online advertising became that rent cost that you will have in regular retail stores and vice versa. So I think with that, it's a very good point that obviously the acquisition costs are growing now, and retail could be in a way that maybe with reset rents could be more affordable.
It's also about expanding the size of your market. So 85% of menswear are bought offline. And then of the 15% that are online, 90% or so of that are bought in multi-brand retailers like Zalando and ASOS and Boost and so on. So then you have this tiny 1 or 2% of the total menswear market that are bought in mono-brand stores like ours. And it would not make any sense to only target that tiny market. And to top that off, we started running a traditional TV advertising and print ads in newspapers and so on last year. And when you do that, you start realizing how many potential sales you're losing because people can only buy it online, and there's just a huge chunk of people who don't want to buy a brand online for the first time.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And then it's not just the one store, because it wouldn't cover the whole country. It's also 6 shop-in-shops where we have we build our own little shop, in one per region in the Netherlands, so that every Dutch person can go to LABFRESH store within 40 minutes of driving.
Yeah, that was actually my next question about the sort of of that strategy. Are you seeing this being expanded to other markets as well?
Yeah, we're opening in Copenhagen also. But it's important to say we didn't open any of it yet, so we don't know if it works. We had this amazing retail plan for 2020 that we made just before the pandemic started, and we had these 6 or now 7 stores ready to go, and then we just kept postponing. So we haven't opened any of them, but all the deals are closed, and they all open between April and June.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah, I see.
So it would really suck if we open 7 and all 7 fail. That's a waste of money. But maybe 5 of them are good and 2 are not, and then we will be very happy.
Yeah, I guess at the end of the day, it's really just more about testing the strategy, the Omni-Channel strategy, because different examples could be different results.
Exactly. And then a mistake we did in the early days was that we would experiment with something once. We would buy a couple of really big billboards on the freeway and then have them for a week, and then look at our Google Analytics and then like how much did traffic go up in that region. And then we can't see anything, and then we write in our little experiment sheet, oh, that was bad, let's never do out of home again. And that's not the way we are supposed to test. We're supposed to try it from many different angles. And when we tried it many different times, we can make our conclusion, but not just do it once and then, that's like misusing the whole growth hacking mindset. Yeah,
absolutely. We will have more questions coming in, and I will also encourage everyone who has a question for Kasper, please click that icon with a question mark and add your question. And then in the meantime, it seems that we also have some people who would love to work for LABFRESH, so nice. What will be the best way for them to go about that?
They should just write us over Instagram, and then someone from my team is always reading through all this stuff. And if something is written to Lotte and me personally, they always send it to us. Yeah. So we respond to customer stuff every single day. And unless you're complaining about a lot of stuff, it will put a smile on our face. So don't worry.
Perfect.
And we are actually looking for a store manager for our new store, and also for what we call a brand director, but someone who can be much better at us at creating something beautiful and streamlined.
Perfect. So Kevin, I think that was for you. So check it out and reach out to the guys on Instagram. Yeah. Perfect. So I wanted to dig a little bit deeper into the omni-channel strategy. What do you see what role do you see this omni-channel strategy playing in the overall direct-to-consumer mindset and direct-to-consumer economy of fashion brands in the future?
I do think that the consumer brands of the future, all the most successful ones across Europe, it will develop very similar to how it's been in the US for the past 10 years. That it's very hard to build a brand entirely online. You sort of need to be online first, so that you're close to your customers and that you can develop on your product fast. But you need a physical presence to get a lot of first-time customers converted. We talk about it like and early adopters, they don't mind taking some risk when they're ordering. But as soon as you're reaching a growth level where you need to get the early majority consumers on board, to cross that chasm, you need to reduce risk much more, because and that for a lot of them, that just requires trying the product on.
Yeah, of course. And of course, as you already mentioned, there is also that aspect of building stronger connections with customers and get a sense of how they act and then how they interact. Of course, a big question is going to be with the recovery plans across Europe, especially post-pandemic. But it'll be definitely interesting to see how this will work.
Yeah, I also think as a startup, if we so in the Netherlands we have a couple of million euros in revenue. If we have a store, we don't just measure the store on how much sales did we do in that one location. We also look at the media value of the storefront. In this case, it's 2 floors on a street with tens of thousands of people going through it, pedestrians and cars and people on their bikes and taking the tram and so on. That media value, since we already run out of home and we run print, we can say that should at least be this amount of euros. And then our office is there as well. So since we can put 7-8 desks upstairs, we also save the 3,000 euros we pay per month in office cost. So I think you have to look at the total value of your space also in terms of the media equity it creates and the online sales that it creates.
Yeah. We will be opening up the floor for questions. So before we move on to that, I actually had just one last question in the aspect of community and social media and how to go about that. So one question that comes up a lot when we talk about fashion economy and social media is how do you find the balance between the content and the community building and sales? And I wonder how you guys go about that, like how, when you create, for example, your social media posting or social media plan, how do you think about it? Is it from the perspective of the community part? Is it from the perspective of branding, sales, and yeah?
Yeah, we actually have to do it different than most direct-to-consumer brands because our customers are men who are, around, who are 30 plus, and they are not the big sharers. They are not the big Instagram users. So when it comes to content, we think about these 4 to 6 campaigns per year where we shoot videos up to a couple of minutes and we make a lot of versions of them from 5 seconds up to the full length. And in these videos, we show something from the factories. Me and Lotte, we will talk to the camera and talk about the product we made. And in recent campaigns, we will also bring in some collab partners. We did it now with a former Danish national team player, and we're doing it with a denim legend for our first denim fabrics and so on. And then it's the storytelling about around those campaigns that for each of them, we can use it for 3 to 6 months in a lot of different versions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. Well, let's get into questions. So the first question we have is, what is the most important part of branding?
Of branding?
Yeah.
I think that's being authentic. A lot of times we will be approached by an agency who would like to do our online marketing or something. And then I click around on the website and I'm trying to find out who are these guys. And they make it sound like they're the biggest agency in the world. And then when you check it on LinkedIn, you realize that it's 1 or 2 dudes who are 23 years old. Mm-hmm. Because they're hiding it, I immediately hate it. But if they had been upfront and saying, hey, we're 2 young dudes, we did these 3 projects before, it had great traction, now we want to do more, are you willing to take a chance on us if we give you a great deal, something like that, then it's authentic. Then I immediately like them. But trying to be something you're not, that's a mistake I see so often from startups, because they are embarrassed that they ship the products from their living room, or they are embarrassed that the product is somewhat homemade, or the website is somewhat homemade, and just own it, make it a strength.
Yeah, I think there is also a very natural part, like when you start a new business, especially if it's an industry that you've never dealt with before, you want to follow some playbook or some other templates that other companies have done.
Yeah.
So there's a very big desire to just take that and try to replicate.
Yeah, and honestly, if you try to make everything really incredibly nice and professional, you will move so slow, and you will not enjoy it yourself either. You will every evening sit and be annoyed that you didn't launch what you were planning to launch.
Yeah, so true. Okay, next question. Have you thought about email marketing as a company?
Yes, actually, it's our biggest channel. So last year, we did 32% of our total revenue directly from email. We launched the new products, and in average, I think we launch a new sort of capsule every 3 or 4 weeks during the year. And those sales are driving all the traffic because we might launch 3 new colors of summer shirts. Then people click on it from the email, and in average they buy 2.2 products per order. So they go in and then they buy one of the summer shirts maybe, but they also buy, a white t-shirt and some black socks and, a blue business shirt or something. So, the product launches will drive never out of stock sales.
Yeah. If we are to talk a little bit about email campaigns, can you give examples of type of email campaigns that you're running? Is it nurturing campaigns? Is it, more like the basket is left without a purchase kind of campaigns, or something else?
So out of these 32% of the revenue that comes from email, it's I think it's 6% of that comes from automated emails. We used to have a lot of them, and we took more and more of them out so that it's instead these campaign newsletters. We now sort it by segments. So based on your behavior with our emails, like how many you open and how many links you click and so on, we will send you fewer emails. In the beginning, we would just send emails to everyone. We do it in 4 languages, and that makes a big difference, but it would just be the same message in 4 languages every 2 weeks or so.
Okay, yeah.
Now we reduce the frequency, and then usually what we get the most direct sales on, for example, are when we ask our customers for help. A great example is actually with your company, with the Easysize. So when we were building the fit algorithm that we use to recommend the right size of our products, we made a good setup with someone from your team, so that after the customer fills out the chatbot, they get a voucher code within your chatbot that says, "Thank you for taking the time to help us build this fit algorithm. Here's 20 euros, no strings attached. You can spend it on our website within the next 3 days." They can go in and just spend those 20 euros on buying black socks, and then we lose money. But more than 9 out of 10 of the orders placed from that email is not black socks. It's a full order, and the average order value is 110 euros. So it doesn't matter that some of them are just choosing some free socks. So from the first email we sent out from Easysize, we got 32,000 euros in direct sales, and it was not the whole customer base. We must have emailed, I don't know what sample size you asked for, 10,000 people or something.
Yeah.
So in general, when we include them and it's community driven, then we will get more out of it than if we say, "Hey, buy this," or "Hey, we have a sale, come buy something."
Yeah, it's really interesting to see how that thought about talking with your users and kind of asking for their help and reporting for their help. It's kind of reflected across your strategy. That's very interesting to see, and it's like it goes back to you guys being very authentic to the way that you want to build this brand.
Yeah, and also because we genuinely need their help making products. We don't have a designer in our team. We have one textile engineer, and then Lotte is very involved in product too. And if our customers are not helping us with figuring out what way to go in, we're not going to get anything done.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to the next question. How has your entrepreneurial mindset changed since starting your first business?
I think it has changed a lot. What's the best way to describe it? It's to say that when I started my first business in 2013, me and my co-founder, we were 2 very young and aggressive men. I think we just wanted to take over the whole world and raise as much money as possible and burn it and hire a lot of people. And the more people in our office and the bigger the office, the cooler. And then it went very fast. The growth was very fast, but you also lose control of your business pretty fast. So my biggest change in mindset is that I really like that we are now a profitable business. Even now it feels weird to say, like I just said the most unsexy thing in the startup world, but we can choose to not fundraise if we don't want to, and as long as we keep growing, I'm happy. If we're profitable, and we grow 10% a year, I will not be happy. Lotte will not be happy. We will not personally feel like we're developing, and then it's not fun. So there has to be some growth with it. But at least it's our choice. And that's something I wish I had realized earlier on, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely one of those things that I think a lot of startup founders do not understand, that as soon as you start raising venture money, you sort of in a way lose control of how this company will evolve and how it will develop. It limits the options in terms of the future of the company, I think, because there is only one path forward, like aggressive growth, and it's not always the best thing for you as a person or, for the company.
Like being in control of your company is not about having more than 50% of the shares. If you depend on fundraising to pay your bills, and I did 5 fundraising rounds now, and we also raised €1 million for LABFRESH earlier because we did need a little bit to get started. But if you need it every 12 months for the first 3, 4, 5 years, all you're thinking about is what metrics do I need to hit in order to close my next funding round? And I don't want to think about that. I want to think about what products do I need to develop to keep my customers happy and to stay ahead of the competition.
Yeah. All right. So let's move on to the next question. Is it possible to buy the fabrics that LABFRESH use?
You cannot buy them from us, unfortunately. You can buy them from anyone. What you can do is develop them yourself, because we don't have patents. If you put enough effort into it and enough time, you can figure out how to make them. But yeah, it takes a lot of time to get it to the right quality level.
Yeah, indeed. And I guess that also goes back to the tip you shared in the beginning about finding the patents and figuring out who are the best people to develop interesting fabrics in the industry. Yeah,
and even if we look at our generation 2 fabrics now, then I'm not proud of them at all anymore. And I think it's the same when we built our first website. I'm not proud of it at all anymore, but when we had it, we thought it was the best thing that anyone had ever built. So it's just, you develop. If your product stagnates for a while, you won't be part of it anymore, and you won't have the same confidence when you're out selling it.
Yeah. How is about LABFRESH in Germany? Any thoughts about opening up a store there?
We actually looked at some of these retail as a service concepts that are popping up a few places. It's sort of like rethinking the department stores. It's what we're also doing in Copenhagen with this company called Sensum. We get our own 8 square meters or so. We put in a test station with some water, so you can test it. We have a video. We train the sales staff, and then you share the costs and you share the revenue. That concept exists in Berlin and in a few other places. Germany is around the same size for us as Denmark and the Netherlands. But I don't believe in going really hard into a country if the only German in our team is a part-time student worker, as it is now. We used to have our head of customer care used to be German, but we can't be for real good about the German market until we get a full-timer in the team.
Yeah, so maybe it goes back to anyone who's interested in working with Kasper and Lotte.
Yeah.
So that could be a good advantage, I see.
Yeah. Yes, that would be nice.
We have the final question. What upsell strategies do you have?
Yeah, that's always a good question. It's sort of like, if an investor is asking that, it's almost, no matter what you say, it can be very dangerous. If you have a really clear exit strategy, then the investor might say that, oh, you're already thinking about leaving, and we only invest in founders who are in it for life. And if you say the opposite, that you don't need to sell it, you want to do it forever, then the investor cannot actually make his money back. For us, it's more fluid. As long as this is what we call a personal growth journey disguised as entrepreneurship, we like it. We don't need to sell the company to buy our dream house or something like that. I'm already sitting in it. It's more about creating a nice lifestyle. As long as we're doing that with the company, we like it. If it at some point has a size where it's not fun anymore, or we just don't feel like we're the right people to run it, then it's great to exit.
Yeah.
Maybe we're only good at creating companies up to 5 or 10 million in revenue, and after that, you need real professionals to take over. Then we're happy to exit.
Yeah, I think that's a very good motto for any entrepreneurs, to really enjoy the journey and look at it also as a personal growth journey as well, not just chasing specific metrics and building a company for the sake of building it.
Yeah, I do have to say though that when we do shareholders agreement, we always write in a drag along clause, so that if we get an offer of the company at a certain price, then we can force our investors to sell. I think this is a clause that every entrepreneur needs to put in, and the number is different for everyone. But for us, it's not a crazy amount. It's just enough to say that with this amount of money, we never have to worry about salary again. So if someone gets it, we want it to be our decision if we want to sell or not, but that no one can block it.
Yeah, that makes sense. Kasper, this has been super great, and I think I can spend another hour or two talking to you, and because you have so many interesting stories to share from your entrepreneurial journey, and be an example of building up a brand from the ground up. And I think a lot of things that you guys are doing at LABFRESH is quite interesting, and it's definitely something that a lot of other founders can learn from.
Thanks.
Is there something that you want to plug at the end of this video? So where can people find you? Any upcoming news or anything that people should be aware of?
No, just if you follow our newsletter that you can sign up to in the bottom of the front page on labfresh.eu, then you can see all the nice things you're doing. And nothing else to plug.
Okay. Well, for everyone else who joined us today, thank you so much for spending your Wednesday evening with us. We will be doing these live streams every Wednesday, so tune in next week at 8 p.m. as well. We will have another amazing founder of a direct-to-consumer brand, and we talk about building and scaling sustainably and profitably fashion brands in direct-to-consumer space. And for now, Kasper, thank you so much one more time. It has been truly a pleasure. And I think we're losing you right now. Let's see if the video comes back. This might be a sign from Instagram that our chat has been going for too long. Yeah, but for everyone who joined us, thank you so much again for joining in and for listening in to the chat that Kasper and I had. I hope you find it useful, and we will see you next Wednesday. Have a nice evening, everyone. Bye.